Hey guys, and welcome back to Almost Legit Garage. So today is Avalanche Transmission Rebuild Part 3. So we're actually going to start throwing stuff back together. If you missed Part 1 and 2, go check those out. But let's get to it. We have everything pretty much cleaned and cleaned, and first part that goes in is this big ol' honking thing. Oh, sorry. First part that goes in is the new seals and the, I think they call it the reverse piston. Yeah, I think that's the reverse piston. I could be wrong, but it is what it is. So this drops right in there. Don't forget about the bearing and make sure that spins freely. Okay, so after that, you have the reverse planet. So make sure also you have your bearing, and if you're ever curious which way these bearings go, they'll have like a stepped edge, as you can kind of see. Like there's the inside there, that always goes on the part closest to it, I guess is the easiest way to describe it. So it's going around that shaft, so that shaft has to be on it. There's also another bearing in here. Well, that wasn't supposed to happen. Okay. But anyways, this stuff pretty much is thick steel. So you just want to kind of wiggle that around until it splines in. All right. Next, we're going to move to clutches. Alright guys, the next step is to install your wave washer. You see there's that little notch that goes right. Right there. Okay, cool. So first off is the wave washer, which you already saw, and then we're going to drop in a steel, and we're going to drop in a clutch. These have been soaked in ATF. You're supposed to pre-soak them for at least 20 minutes. I left these in overnight. Just make sure they have some fluid in them when it starts up. So another friction, or another steel. Another friction, and you just, line it up, drop it on. Another steel. And while I'm running through it, the steels are just the factory one, or the original ones, and I cleaned them off with a red scuff pad on the die grinder. Just gives them a nice surface to bite to for the first time, and aids in braking, kind of like the non-directional marks on a brake rotor when you get them, or when you get new ones. So then there, another friction, another steel, and finally your last friction. Okay, back at this. I had my anti-clunk spring installed wrong, so basically both legs up is how it should go. Alright. Take 5. So get this damn thing to go where it's supposed to go. Alright, whew. Okay, we're just gonna cut all the rest of that stuff out. But we're in. Just watch what had happened to me was that ear of the anti-clunk spring kind of like came over and blocked that. So watch that. Then once you're in, you can spin the sprag and line up with the planetary gear there. Then we're just going to throw the snap ring on top of that, and we'll move to the next step. Alright guys, back at it. So a little lesson here. This is the sun shell that came with my new planet set. I'm assuming what had happened in this transmission was the infamous sun shell failure, because the grooves at the end of this were kind of worn flat, so I'm assuming the sun shell stripped out and it kind of flattened down the outside edges. So I was able to get it on, but it's a very snug fit. But I couldn't use the one out of my transmission because for whatever reason the shaft size and stuff just was not cooperating. The bushing got very unhappy in a very short amount of time. So I'm assuming it's just something along the lines of these two are worn together, but that sun shell worn out. So that's just kind of tapped in there, and it just took a couple, light taps with the hammer to get it down seated all the way. But you do have to watch out for that kind of thing when you're buying used parts. I mean, it's not uncommon for people to sell parts and not realize that they're a little bit damaged. But now that's in there, we can drop the whole thing down so that spins well. Drop that down, and now we can drop our that way washer in, and the fucking planets. And then our planetary gear. I will tell you, these planets are a bitch to hold on to because they just want to slip out of your hands. And then you wiggle it down, and that's in. So I want to kind of double check and make sure that everything is. Sprag action is a little noisy, but that's just kind of the nature of that beast. But now we can put in the output shaft and go on to the next step. I'm going to kind of call it cut here while I get the output shaft in. We're going to transition over to that orange, the orange milk crate as a stand, because the holes are perfect for the output shaft and it should support things. So we're going to come back to that when we're over there, okay? Alright guys, so I got the output shaft in and the snap ring on. The billet one had fresh spline, so it took a bit of effort to get it in, but we got it. Okay, so now this is your reverse input drum, and we're just going to drop in the kind of like the warped one. That's not bad, that's what it's supposed to be. Okay, then you're going to do steel, friction, steel, friction, and so on and so forth. I'm not replacing these clutches because they're a little dark, but they don't really have a whole lot of wear on them. And then your pressure plate, and then I have to find the correct snap ring for that one. There we go. Yeah, there's a few snap rings around, and really they can only go in their designated position. So don't worry about that too much. Normally though, when you're doing like this kind of stuff and you don't have a whole lot of experience, you just want to do the unstack everything and leave it in a pile and then switch it out for the new stuff when you come to it. That'll help you remember where everything goes a little bit better, because not knowing kind of is unfortunate. But we can set this off to the side now, and we will go on to the next drum. Alright guys, so I'm over here in my milk crate, just to kind of hold it. It's kind of hard to hold one hand with that shaft there. But we're going to drop in a steel, and if you see, I'm reusing steels. You can see this one has that ring from being in the bottom position before. You want to kind of keep that, because that ring's probably worn in there a little bit. So coast clutch is what these are called. So steel, clutch, clutch. And then this is the pressure plate. You can see which side of it the old clutches were riding on. And we're going to drop in the wave spring for the forward clutches. All right, now here is our sprag. Okay, I'll also make sure there's a little Torrington bearing on top of that. Yeah, you kind of wiggle this thing around until it sits down well. And you can feel inside of it that it's sitting on that washer. Okay, so now that that's there, we can go to these, which is our forward clutches. Okay, now this is just the transmission case I'm setting it on, so don't get too worried with me. Okay, so we're gonna drop in a steel on top of that washer. Do friction, steel, friction, steel, friction, steel, friction, steel, and your last friction, and then you can put your pressure plate on top of that. Okay, and as you can see, well, hopefully you can see the pressure plate and the snap ring groove are level. So you want to make sure that is level when you do this. If it's not level and is sitting below, you missed a steel or a friction or something along those lines. If it's sitting too high, then you're probably not, you probably don't have the sprag all the way down. So I'm going to throw the snap ring in, and we'll get onto the fancy 8-stack clutch, or yeah, 3/4 clutches. Alright guys, so here is your lower pressure plate, friction, steel, friction, steel. Wait, I'm doing that. That's messed up. Hang on just a second. Shift that over. That's right. And okay, I see what's going on here. Now that shouldn't matter which way they go, but there's a little notch in them, so I figured I might as well line that up. But then you have to watch the orientation of them. But it really doesn't, or it shouldn't matter. As long as they're in there, then it should be fine. But I'm OCD, so I'm doing it anyways. If I can find this. stupid notches. They keep running away. Alright. Yeah, I know the lighting is terrible in this position. This plastic bag I have covering the transmission really zaps all the light from the area. But we're gonna get this stacked up here. And I mean, really, this part's fairly simple. If you don't understand anything that I'm doing, look up other sources. But pretty much with this style, they just have to be there. Okay, and then there is the top. And we're going to insert the release springs here. And yeah, because it's pushing off on the pressure plate. So you just drop those in around the outside edge, and that's just to help lift the pressure plate, like when it's not being used, or you know, when the pressure is off the clutches. And there we are. And you can see the springs don't really appear to do much in this context, but and then there are options on the there's options on your snap ring. The ones that I got, or the kit that I bought for this, comes with a thinner snap ring to kind of give you a little bit more clearance up and above what the stack can normally hold. And you know, I can never do these snap rings with the camera in my hand. Oh, maybe. I just jinxed it in a good way. Never happens. Hey, there we go. Okay, then yeah. There was a little bit more room on them back before, but there's, you know, a little bit of room. But yeah, when they're dry, there's a bit more room to it. But now that they're wet, they're kind of stuck in there pretty good. But that's it. Kind of making sure there's no way I could have grabbed the wrong one, but nope, I couldn't have. So, alright, well that's our stacks complete, and I'm gonna call this video either before this or at this, because I am tired as hell and I really don't want to finish up today. But everything's secured in this. You just want to make sure I didn't snag any of the ceiling rings. And I will point out, if you see me like missing major steps, like for example these Teflon rings and the bonded pistons, basically because I built this or rebuilt this transmission a year ago, I know that stuff's still in good condition. I pulled one of them just to make sure that there wasn't any metal shavings in it. I didn't think there could be any metal shavings in it because that fluid should come from the filter or come through the filter. But just to be sure, I took the one out that was the one that was relatively easy to get out, and it was clean as can be. And that was the one in the back of the transmission closest to the output shaft that blew up. So we should be all good for there. We got the clutches in. Next episode we'll build the pump, or take apart the pump, clean it and that stuff, and we'll get into like final assembly of the transmission, and then we're gonna put our stack, and then we're going to put the valve body together and basically just finish it all up. But thank you guys for watching. Hopefully the next video should be not too far down the road. And thanks for watching. Alright, later.